brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
Righto, welcome back to the Cricket World Cup wrap-up part 2, brought to you by the Maximum Cricket Podcast. My name is Munter, and I am just joined by Lugsy tonight. Jacko, we think, is actually on the piss while away on work duties. Wouldn't have minded a drunk Jacko making an appearance just quietly. Might have been similar to a Jay Uso and Cody Rhodes at Fastlane over the weekend. Don't know if you saw that, Lugsy, but it's quite something.
As you know, I'm a big fan Bella man, so I wasn't 100% happy with that combination, but that's for another pod.
It certainly is very questionable, but that's not why we're here. We are here because we are going to cover the Netherlands scaring Pakistan, Bangladesh dismissing Afghanistan, South Africa breaking all sorts of records and the spirit of Sri Lanka, and this morning India comfortably taking care of Australia. Lugsy, that's we're one, but everyone's had a game so far. How are we feeling going into the second round of the fixtures? Are we sure about these teams yet?
Yeah. Oh, I think India is one place that it makes it a bit harder to be sure of anyone, because you are getting a bit of diversity in pitches. India certainly playing on some spinner friendly ones. So that it can sort of, I think the key with any World Cup, apart from that New Zealand one, which we will overact to, is not to get too crazy with things. You can see these days, especially in the modern era, a team gets going, scores 400, they look unbeatable. Turn around the next week and it's not quite the same. So, I mean, there's certainly some teams that you'd be a wee bit more excited about being in their camp. But I just wouldn't get too overly excited about anyone just yet.
Yeah, 100%. We're obviously we've got a friend with a serious gambling addiction that's asking for bets, and it is quite tough at this stage out. So we will let's review some of the games. We'll start at the start. We'll go back to Pakistan and the Netherlands. Pakistan, they started their World Cup obviously with the win over the Netherlands by 81 runs. And as comfortable as the final scoreline was, the Dutch did make Pakistan work for it. They elected to field and had Pakistan rattled at 38 for 3, the top 3 in the sheds. Mohammad Rizwan and man of the match, Shakil, put on 120 to give Pakistan some control. They were both dismissed for 68 apiece. Mohammad Nawaz and Shadab Khan made handy 30 odds to get Pakistan to 286 all out. The pick of the bowlers for the Netherlands was Baz de Leede with 4 for 62. In reply, the Netherlands actually got off to a good start, 120 for 2 as opener Singh made a half century along with de Leede, who made a runnable 67. Until Harris Ralph blew the game wide open. He took 2 wickets in an over. He should have taken 3, but he was had 1 dropped in the same over. After that, the Dutch never recovered, being all out for 205. Harris Ralph taking 3 for 43. Lugsy, does this game sort of change your opinion about either side? Because for me, it just probably confirms that the Netherlands are not going to be an easy out. Like they will go very, very close to tipping up a side.
Yeah, I think the problem with the minnows, with the smaller nations, is they've basically got to be perfect to get a win, and a team sort of has to be a wee bit subpar. And I think the Netherlands did probably half a job on both ends. They started pretty well up top. I was having a couple of quiets on Friday and getting a touch excited before the Netherlands boil over on the cards. But they just sort of let it slip slightly. To their credit, actually, they did stuck at it though. It wasn't like a complete sort of meltdown with the ball. They actually battled back hard and got back into it. And 280, not anything easy for them to chase, but I thought they did all right. And then again, they started all right with the bat after a couple of early losses, but yeah, they lost a couple of key ones again in succession, and that's the problem. As I say, they've sort of just got to be right on the job. These minnow sides have got to be pretty much perfect to get a victory. So yeah, I think the Netherlands will surprise a few teams. I think they're going to find it hard to win a game though. Maybe against one of the smaller nations, but yeah, just to sort of Pakistan did what they needed to, I suppose. Early scare, but sort of pretty comfortable in the end.
Yeah, like if I touch on sort of Pakistan, I guess their biggest strength is probably their top order, and they all three failed. So I think for them to get runs out of that middle order is pretty crucial heading into the rest of the fixtures. Not to rely too much on that top three. And for the Netherlands, I guess, like you said, they have to be perfect. And in a 50-over game, there's enough time for the better side to catch up. Whereas in a T20, if you're 38 for 3, you might not recover, sort of thing. So I think that's I don't know if that game moves the needle too much for me. But
no, it is still the great thing about these World Cups is it's just a good opportunity for the smaller nations to test themselves. Like they don't get to play these bigger top tier teams and sort of decent crowds that often. So that's like it is important. Like there's a couple of guys in that Netherlands side that looked right. That young spinner's only sort of 20 years old. Like what an experience for him. So it's always about sort of building with these smaller sides, isn't it?
100%, 100%. Speaking of a couple of smaller sides, Bangladesh had a very, very good win over Afghanistan by 6 wickets in their first game. Probably one of those games you thought might be a bit closer, but wasn't to be. Bangladesh chose to put Afghanistan in, and to their credit, Afghanistan got off to a reasonable start, 112 for 2, end up being 156 all out. So that's a major collapse. Gurbaz looked quality for his 47. He plays a bit of IPL stuff. He's a very, very good stick. But apart from that, Afghanistan's batting just couldn't handle the spin duo of Shakib and Mahidi, as they took 6 poles apiece at under 4 and over. In reply, Bangladesh lost 2 early, but Mahidi batting at 3 made 57. Shanto made 59 red as Bangladesh ran out pretty bloody comfortable winners in the end. Lugsy, any sort of big takeaways from this game? Because I think for me, the big one for me is the Bangers, I think, are more of a threat than I might have given them credit, because I think they actually do have a decent side on paper, and these conditions do suit them. They've got a pretty decent batting lineup, not world class, but it's pretty good. 2 of the best all-rounders in world cricket. Shakib, one of the best ever, and Mahidi, sneaky good seam attack. So I think they're going to be a real handful for the rest of the fixtures coming up.
Yeah, there's 2 things I'll say quickly. Is one is I liken the Bangladesh sort of to New Zealand back in the day when we used to beat up on Zimbabwe. It was like Bangladesh finally went in the minnow. They were like, we've got a chance to actually beat up on a side here, and full credit to them because they did. Yeah, they looked quite handy. Tell you what, a lot of guys lost their pole for that Afghan side. I'll say that I haven't quite seen so many guys get bowled in a long time. And the great thing about World Cup cricket is, I tell you, there's not often I'll watch Bangladesh, Afghanistan, but it's a World Cup. It's a sad day, Arvo. I'll just chuck it on and give it a wee watch for a while. So I actually watched a lot of that game. As you say, Bangladesh, though, you don't want to say they'll definitely tip up someone, but they're going to definitely cause some troubles for a few sides. Like, I think, as you pointed out, and the key for them is they've got a sneaky, all right sort of bowling lineup, led by some all right quirks, and then some definitely world class spin options. So I think Afghanistan are going to find this hard, although they started all right. They're going to find this hard, but the Bangladesh side, they'll be the sort of Sri Lankans, dare I say, New Zealand's, the teams that don't typically play spin as well. They'll be a threat, all right.
I mean, I don't want to put myself on the worst take too early. But Bangladesh's next game is against England. And obviously England's already lost the game. And obviously England's going to go on favourites, and that's rightly so. But if this is like on a Chennai pitch and it's turning, there could be a boil over. There could be a boil. I wouldn't fully rule it out, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to get them on one of the Indian friendly pitches, do you? You want more of that South Africa 400 decks when you're playing Bangladesh.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think you touched on Afghanistan. I think what sort of concerns me is their batting. that middle order sort of folded pretty quickly. And I think that's going to be a real Achilles heel for them. I sort of did expect a little bit more from them. I thought their bowling attack's good. They've got a decent sort of opener and Gurbars, but I think if that batting doesn't turn up, I think they're going to really struggle as well in this World Cup. Okay, so Sri Lanka versus South Africa, and wow, what a statement from South Africa. 428 for 5 of 50 overs, the highest total in World Cup history. They ran out winners over Sri Lanka by 102 runs. Sri Lanka actually decided to field two, ironically, after Bavuma went early, but after that it was all South Africa. Quinton de Kock, 100 off 84. Rassie van der Dusen, 108 off 110. They put on 204 for the second wicket. After that, Aidan Markham put the foot down with one of the most beautiful hundreds you will see. The fastest World Cup 100 ever off 49 balls. South Africa smashed 160 odd off the last 13 overs to well and truly crush Sri Lanka's spirit. In reply, Sri Lanka got off to a flyer courtesy of Kusil Mendes. He destroyed this African attack, especially Marco Jansen, who went for 90 odd off his 10. Mendes was dismissed for a rapid 76 off 42 balls. After that, Sri Lanka lost regular wickets to be bowled out for 326 off just 44 overs. A couple of others managed to get half centuries, but the run rate just got up a bit too much. The 754 runs scored in this match was the most ever in a World Cup match. Lugsy, not bad from Africa.
Not bad at all. If we're being harsh, 3 guys getting hundreds and no one really pushing on to make it a big one, that's a work on for South Africa. And I think, if we're being harsh critics, that's the difference between, say, 430 and 500. We've got to think about this going forward. But in seriousness, yeah, that's a serious performance from Africa. That's a real statement of the first round. Really good to see Quinton de Kock get 100, his first World Cup 100. When he's going out, it's nice to see. He's pretty popular guy in the cricketing circle, so that was good to see. And yeah, Markin's 100. I mean, I'm glad you said it was a beautiful 100 because it wasn't all sort of brimstone. It was actually some serious shots in that first 50, and then really put the foot down, and which so often can happen when it's falling apart for you a wee bit. Sri Lanka started to drop a couple of catches in the end, and that really last 10 to 13 really fell away from them. And it really cost them the game in the end because they batted all right. And if they had a try, could have made it, even if it was 50, 60 runs less or something reasonable to chase, maybe it was a chance. But once they went for that many and it got that high, it sort of gave away the game.
It's just so hard to stop the blood, stop the flow when you haven't picked up wickets through the middle. It's just so difficult to stop teams nowadays, especially a side of South Africa's caliber. Like, we haven't been that high on South Africa, but a lot of people have been. And you can kind of see why, because when it's right, when this top 6 gets going, they are, it's probably the strongest top 6 in the world. Like maybe India could probably pip them, but de Kock, Bavuma, van der Dusen, Markram, Klaassen, Miller, it's just power all the way through, and it's high averages. I guess I don't know, Lugsy. Does it? We said they'd miss the semis. Does this result change anything for you?
I don't know. They're pretty hard to get a read on. I mean, this is literally only a month ago. Aussie were up 2-0 in that ODI series. They were scoring sort of huge runs themselves, and Africa's attack looked like it was sort of gone. They couldn't get a win. I'm sort of very down on them. They come back, win those next three ODIs, and they're certainly, they're hitting form at the right time. I think obviously the World Cup passed is that's always a hurdle when you're talking about South Africa. It's always in the back of your mind. I'll stick with our prediction that they won't make the 4. I'll ride that one at the moment, but that is a statement win. I think there is a slight concern if you get them on the right deck. Maybe that batting lineup doesn't quite hold up the same, but Yeah, you wouldn't want to run into them on the wrong day. I mean, yeah, some of the hitting from a lot of their players are pretty impressive. A lot of big units. Sort of when Markham and that got together and were pumping it, the old veins were coming out the tight jersey there, and it was, a couple of contenders for the best looking 11 were starting to emerge. So
yeah, I just can't shake this gut feeling that this batting lineup won't be able to do this, won't be able to hold up on a wicket that sort of does a bit. And I also feel like these big scores, they are nice and everyone wants to do them, but I can't imagine you're winning a knockout game with them, if you know what I mean. Like the stakes are too high and it gets too tight. I don't know. I need to see it first. Like even England, when they won the World Cup, like they didn't win it through blasting an opposition. Like they, scraped through and beat New Zealand in the final on a pretty tough wicket. And, Janssen is still batting at 7 and he still only has one international 50 in world cricket. And I can't shake it. I just can't shake that part. At some point, he's going to be required. And can he do it? I don't know. Anything else you want to touch on with those boys, or do you want to move on to India, Australia?
Yeah, I think sorry, who was it up top that got the runs for Sri Lanka? That was some of the nicest leg side hitting I've seen in some time. I think his wagon wheel must have been predominantly leg side, and the way they were just getting picked up off the pins and off the six, that was beautiful hitting. I like in Sri Lanka to tip up someone as well. I actually think it's quite an open World Cup. As I say, with the format as it is, it's going to be hard to sort of beat the big guns. But I think Sri Lanka will cause a wee stir against someone as well.
Yeah, I think it's good that you touched on Sri Lanka, because it's probably a disappointing result, but there is some highlights there, and I think that wicket in particular is probably the best wicket for South Africa and the worst wicket for Sri Lanka. I think they're going to be a real handful on some of the more difficult pitches to bat on. When the scores aren't high, they're a little bit not like New Zealand really, where they're not really a high ceiling side. But if it's a low score, this spin threat comes into it. I just wouldn't rule them out completely just yet. No. Right. The biggest match, India versus Australia. It was nice of India to finally grace us of their presence at this World Cup. They rounded out the first round of fixtures with India winning relatively comfortably by 6 wickets, and another strange move by the BCCI after having a non-Indian game at a 130,000 seat stadium for the opening game. They actually had India's opening game in Chennai, which only holds about 50,000. So don't really know where these decisions are being made, but what do I know? Speaking of strange moves, Paddy Cummins, in probably his 4th game as one-day captain, decided to bat first in tough conditions. To bat first, like it was turning square, and obviously there's dew later on. So very interesting decision to do that. Marsh nicked off by Bumrah early, but Warner and Smith looked in pretty good touch. They put on 70 odd, but when they were dismissed for 41 and 46 respectively, it was really all India. Jadeja 3 for 28 off 10, Kuldeep 2 for 42, and Ashwin 1 for 34. Squeezed the life out of Australia, who were all out for 199, probably at least 50 short. India's reply had one of the worst starts imaginable. Rohit, Ishan Kishan, playing ahead of the injured Shubman Gill and Shreyas Iyer, were all out for ducks as India fell to 3 wickets down for 2 runs inside the first 2 overs. It could have been a hell of a lot worse as Kohli tried to pull a Hazelwood bumper. The ball hit the stickers, a ballooned up Mitchell Marsh came sliding in, sort of was like, I don't know if he was worried about Keary or not, but they were sort of pretty close. But he ends up dropping a pretty easy catch at mid-wicket. Score would have been 20 for 4. It wasn't to be, as India put on 165 for the 4th wicket. Virat Kohli making 85, and in the process, passing Tendulkar for the most runs in a successful ODI chase. Averages almost 89 in successful ODI chases, which is unheard of. The next closest is about 60 odd. Rahul finishing on 97 not out. He showed his class also. Lugsy, major takeaways from this game. Cummins reckons he had no regrets about batting first, but it does seem to be a trend that this due is making it easier to bat second, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a bold choice. It's an old school sort of choice. I've said this a couple of times in this World Cup, but that's a real sort of old school move of no matter what, you bat first, you get runs on the board, and you make it hard to chase. It's a bold choice from Paddy Cummins. I think, a big takeaway from this game is Mitch Marsh. That's a bad drop. That one's going to haunt you, unfortunately. And I really like Mitch Marsh and everything he's done lately. Even in that tiny stint where he doesn't even get a run, I thought, geez, Mitch Marsh just hits it clean. Doesn't get a run, but I still liked him out there. Aussie, I think, going to really rely on Smith a bit in this World Cup. I think that sort of game's the exact sort of, I can see them doing that performance again. So I think they're just very reliant. I no doubt there's going to be a game where that batting lineup comes off. There's probably going to be a couple. Serious talent in the batting lineup and serious hitting ability. But that game, that sort of blueprint right there is what worries me. If a Smith and that, once you're in, they're going to really have to stay in, because I think a lot of these guys are going to find it hard to start. I can just see that happening again. Then again, though, they take that catch. That crowd's pretty. You could really sense like the nerves even early on when they lost those few wickets. I was like, this is what India is up against if this goes wrong, because there's some serious nerves in that crowd. So good to see a bit of atmosphere from the Indians to start this tournament finally. And India, I think, they show why they're going to be very hard to beat. The spinners on that deck are just, that Bull Jadeja you got Smith with. Hard to play that. India sort of showed why they'll be very hard to beat. I don't know. It's India, Aussie, are going to be very interesting to follow, I reckon, this World Cup.
Yeah, I sort of, with India, they are where I sort of expected them to be. I think with Australia, we sort of touched on the fact that we don't think they'll make the semi-finals, but they will rely on Smith and Warner, like you said. And I think, if they get to 40 odd, they need bulk runs. They need Conway hundreds, and they just need to bat big hundreds and sort of allow some of the other hitters a platform. But there's something missing with this Australian side. There's a balance issue with the side. And it starts with the captain being Paddy Cummins, because quite often in India, you're probably only going to pick two seamers. So that means you've got to pick two seamers out of Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc, and Josh Hazlewood. Now, Mitchell Starc just became the fastest ever to 50 World Cup wickets. You're not dropping him. Hazlewood is in the top 5 one-day bowlers in the world and the top 5 T20 bowlers in the world. So you've almost got to drop him. And then you've got Paddy Cummins, who's gone at 6s tonight. He's easily the third best one-day bowler in the world, but they're picking 3 seamers. They've only got 1 spinner on a spin-friendly deck, and then they've sort of bowled first. And then they've got like Cam Green's batting at 7. He's not really a finisher. I'm not too sure that they know their identity as a one-day side, because no one plays one-day cricket. So I'm pretty concerned about Australia. I don't know. This next game against South Africa is going to be big.
Yeah, we've got all our stock in an Aussie and South Africa early exit. The TMC sort of going to make or break their careers here on these two sides. I think you're right though, because Aussie can't. I don't think they can't not play those 3 seamers. So it's sort of their strength everywhere else. It's a good bowling attack, and then Zab sort of performs everywhere else. It's like it is their strength, and I don't think they'll go away from it. But over here, it's not going to be to their to their strength. So Zamps is another one that's tough because this is why India is so hard to beat in their conditions. So it's not only do they have the best spinners, it's that they play spin so well. I'm sure Zamps will perform really well going forward against other nations, but against India, they're just not going to settle for any like spinner going at them. They're going to go at them, try and force them to bowl poorly and sort of see what other options you have. And not many teams have the options that India have. So that's what makes them so hard to beat. They've sort of got everything covered.
Yeah, and lastly, obviously we sort of touched on India a bit, but just a wee bit on Kohli. It's just like we're gonna miss him when he's gone. Like it's just a treat to just watch him in a one-day chase. Teams in trouble. Obviously, KL Rahul was outstanding as well, but like Kohli, when it's all said and done, it's just he's going to be one of the world, greatest ever. It's a treat to watch.
Yeah, it's one of those things. He is when he's out there like in a run chase, you feel it's Smithy in the com box. Like it's safe. Like you're pretty confident in Kohli, and I think what always makes it fun with him is he takes on the bowling so well. Like he always looks up for the challenge. This is sort of his moment, isn't it, with this big Indian crowd? Because it wasn't, it was a couple of years ago when people were wondering if it was all over for Virat, and he sort of bounced back nicely there. And I don't know, he's just looking very confident again. The swagger's there when he walks out to the crease. He's got all the shots in the book, and it always seems like he's in control when he's out there.
Yeah, 100%. Righto, Lugsy. Let's move on to our World Cup segment that we're going to run. It's called Worst Take. Basically, it's just if you can find a take on the internet, on TV that someone has claimed and it just hasn't turned out well, it's aged poorly, we want to hear about it. So let us know your worst takes. And we're not above worst take because our first nomination is myself, because I had Sri Lanka ahead of South Africa in the power rankings and they got absolutely walloped. So that's one of our nominations. Another nomination is Aaron Finch on the combox in the Indian-Australian game after Kuldeep took a relatively simple caught and bowled. He suggested that there's no such thing as an easy caught and bowled. These are professional cricketers, Aaron. I can assure you there are some easy caught and bowls. That's a ridiculous thing to say. They're not five. And lastly, it's just no one in particular, just a general theme about net run rates. One game into the tournament feels a bit much. Like every time there is a team that's probably already won it, like there's so many commentators going on about they need to put the foot down because of net run rate and this and that, and it's like really so Lugsy, have you got any others or what, any of those tickle your fancy?
No, I did definitely touch on them all. I enjoyed that. I mean, the first one, mate, you got to ride this a bit more. You got to, you've said Sri Lanka still could finish above them. You got to hold out on that.
Well, I guess so, yeah.
If it was the other way, if we said, South Africa will be far too strong for Sri Lanka, then certainly we bring it up right away. But not when it goes against us, not a chance. Yeah, love both the last two sort of cliches you'll get there. It's what sport's all about. The run rate thing's a great one because what I love about that is it's just sort of a wee ace that a commentator can go to when the game's sort of over. It's one of those last wee things we can start talking about. Like if Aussie got sort of 60 to win, there's nothing really to play for. Then you can bring that up and you can make it seem really important. So just a good wee ace to have up the sleeve.
No one knows what it means though. No one knows how it's figured out. No one has any idea how we come up with net run rate. It's like no one has an idea, but we're always talking about it.
It's a classic, yeah. Especially it's a great one for a non-cricketing fan to just shout out at the pub, I reckon. Just we've got to think about net run rate here, boys.
Far out.
You're like, shit, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Okay, righto. Should we wrap up there, Lugsy?
Yeah, lovely.
Sweet as. Okay, thank you for joining us on the MSN of the Cricketing Podcast World. Massive shout out to one of our bigger fans who came up with that Paki boy, loves to message the boys all over the show and thinks he's annoying us. And sometimes his takes are a bit outrageous, but I tell you what, it's good to have a fan that cares like he does. I tell you what.
Yeah, 100%. He's really found the brotherhood in the boys that love cricket and love wrestling, hasn't he?
100%. So if anyone, if anyone else, if you enjoyed the show, please do like and subscribe. Leave us a comment, a rating, or even a review if you feel inclined. Really helps the show get noticed. It tells these platforms to push our content. Lugsy, always a pleasure. Thanks as always, and I'll catch up with you very shortly.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Great to spend some time talking cricket. And if Fraser Cameron is out there, if he's making these sort of punts and not on the Patreon, we're going to have some words.
Surely he could. Surely he's spending $500 on a punt. Surely he can spare $4 for a little bit of extra podcast stuff.
You'd like to think so.
We'll just have a punting segment if he really wants. If he's going to fund the show.
Actually, bring him on as a guest. I'd say.
Don't hate it. Right, catch you later.
Right, I catch you.